Hi guys, I'm here with a very quick November wrap up. I started the month off with an audio by Cheryl Woods, After Text, and this was a breath of fresh air after the debacle that was The Lightkeeper, the last audio that I listened to in October. After Text basically tells the story of Megan. She is Cheryl Woods' answer to Martha Stewart. She has her own sort of company called Megan's World. It's set, I think it was originally written in the late 90s, but it doesn't feel too dated, which is good. It sort of stood the test of time, I guess, where some books in that particular era don't really do that. I will link a review of it to my blog for a full what I did like, what I didn't like. Overall, it was good fun. I gave that one 3 stars. Next up was I was so excited when I saw this in the swap box. This is The Lady in Red by Fayreen Preston, I think her name is. And I'm like, what is she doing? It's like he's in a coma and she's going to kiss him back into consciousness or something, and then there's just like these little weird creeper animals like to the side. I'm just like, what is up with that? And the tagline of "He wooed her with hot chocolate and cookies. She had no choice but to surrender her heart." And pretty much that is where it got shit after that. It was really, really disappointing. There was a very funny mistaken identity scene, which I actually quite enjoyed at the start. She mistakes him for her informant. She's a journalist, and Zach owns his own toy company, hits the creeper toys on his bed, and she mistakes him. He mistakes her for a high-class call girl. So that first initial scene is quite funny, but then he decides to get all freaking weird and call his friend at the DMV and get her address and proceed to stalk her. And then it's all okay, and it's really not. It's sort of the whole stalking is just swept under the rug. I think it's like he catches up with her and she's like, "Wait, you stalking me?" He's like, "Yes, I am, but don't worry, I'm cute. I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want to be with you." And she's like, "Oh, okay then, fine." And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? He's stalking you. No, just no. And then I'm pretty sure that the whole book takes place over like a week or something, and there's declarations of love and marriage at the end of it. Spoiler alert, sorry, but I read it so you didn't have to, basically. Yeah, that was shit. I also listened to the 5th book in the Immortal Instruments series, City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare, and I have since in December finished the last book in that series. And while I am glad that I finished the series, I am glad that I didn't buy it, because I don't think I'll ever read them or listen to them again. I have some issues with the series. I like the overall premise of the story, but some of the characters annoy me, and the writing style. And I think I might actually in December maybe do a full video or perhaps a blog post about that, because I know I'm not the only one out there, even though I do feel like sometimes I'm the only one that doesn't love it and give it 5 stars all the time. Next up, another audiobook, which was The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, and I listened to this in the car, and I also reread some of the stories which I particularly enjoyed, and that, I think, was listening to it on audio was the best way to consume the story. It was the way that it's written, which is sort of is Tim remembering and retelling stories of what happened to him and his fellow company, I think they call them. I want to say Charlie Company, but I think that's MASH. But yes, so, and he sort of says, you know, they're true stories, but then he's like, don't believe a single thing that I say because it's all lies. And it is shelved in the fiction section, so I'm taking sort of everything that he says with a grain of salt. But it was just, I just felt like he really captured the atmosphere of Vietnam in that time. And I don't say that with any authority, because I really haven't read a lot of fiction or even non-fiction about the Vietnam War. Pretty much everything I know about the Vietnam War comes from a bunch of war movies. Mr. Stamp's history class at school, we basically watched all of the war movies. But yeah, I was sort of, there were a few stories which I really very much enjoyed, so it was great to be able to go back and reread them. There was probably only one story that I really didn't like, and it was funny because he was saying in this, it's a story that people like the most because one of the characters dies, and another one then uses a tiny baby water buffalo for target practice. And I know that's kind of a spoiler, I'm not saying anybody's name, but you can pretty much kill the whole cast in a movie, but if you hurt one horse or an animal, and I'm just like a crying mess and I can't deal. It's strange, but it's true. So that one I just had no desire to reread at all, and it definitely wasn't my favourite story. My favourite story in this, and I can't believe I can't remember what it's called, but it's towards the end of it, and it's I really can't believe I cannot remember the title. That is terrible. But basically it's from when Tim was 9. So if you've already read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, it'll be something lovely in one way and sad in the other, which is very cryptic. But yeah, definitely, if you haven't read this, I think you should give it a go, and definitely check it out on the audio. It's read by him, or the version that I had was read by him, and it was just like, yeah, sitting around with your mates talking about the bad old days. Next up, I read The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, and this is one of 2 of his books that are in the 1001 Books to Read Before You Die. The other one is The Pit and the Pendulum, which I haven't read yet. And it's only, like, I mean, I think it was maybe 20 pages or something. It was a really, really quick read, and I would like to reread it again, because it was spooky. I know he's like, I don't know, is he called the Master of Horror? He does the creepy stuff really well. But it basically tells the story of this man who goes to visit a brother and sister who live in the House Usher, and then weird things start happening. And I think I might make a video not just about this particular book, but other books that are on the 1001 list set around this, or published around this similar time frame. I have some thoughts. So yeah, who knows what the thoughts will be and whether they'll be coherent. But I would like to do that. Next up was The Last Werewolf by Glenn Duncan, and I did actually start this a while back in, I don't know if it was actually September or October. Maybe September I'm feeling, which is ridiculous. It took me a long time to read it, and I started it for the Joey's 24-hour readathon. And this wasn't really at all what I thought it was going to be. It's a werewolf story, and it's literary. Make of that what you will. Basically, it tells the story of Jake Marlowe. He's about 200 years old, and he just wants to die. He's done with living. He's tormented by the things that he's done in the past. Pretty much, obviously, 200 years. Everybody he's loved has since died. So he struggles with that. He also struggles with the fact that he is the last werewolf. There are I can't believe I can't remember what it's called, but there's a sort of a company which is charged with the eradication of werewolves, basically. And so he's been hunted by them pretty much the whole time, and they've been around for as long as he's been a werewolf before then. And certainly Jake did say it himself, but if I had to sum this book up in 3 words, basically, it would be fuck, kill, eat, because that's basically a lot of what happens in the book. It's almost like, and it is kind of explained that you become a werewolf and this switch gets flipped, I guess, and you're just like a hornbag. But yeah, he's, there he regales you with tales of his shagging escapades, and he's like totally obsessed with the butt sex. I don't know if it's because he's a dog or what, I'm not really sure. So it is quite graphic in that particular nature, and again quite graphic with the killing scenes. But it is interesting because the vampires that he knows, we'll get to that next. The werewolves that he knows in this are pretty much, once you become a werewolf, that's all you are, sort of thing. You lose your language, so he's very rare in the fact that he is still quite eloquent, and he pretty much just won't shut up, really. It felt like that when I was reading it. Whereas the vampires that are in this are sort of this superior, also super obsessed with the sex. But yeah, they're super strong, which he is, but they don't lose their sense of themselves, or they don't lose the fact that they can talk good. But yeah, so basically he's decided to die, and it's that story from there. Next up, it is a trilogy, which I didn't realise it was until I was partway through this, I think, or I just started to listen to this. So next up is Tallulah Rising, which is going to be interesting. I think there's going to be more of the vampire side of things in that particular book, and I am looking forward to finding out how the story is going to continue. Next up, I had some essays by Don Watson, Rabbit Syndrome, which is sort of looking at Australia and America's relationship with each other. I basically read these because Don Watson was here at the start of December to launch his new book, The Bush. And these were quite an interesting read. He sort of uses the, I think it's a quartet, the Rabbit Quartet by John Updike, which is Rabbit Run, Rabbit Redux. I'm not sure what the other titles are. So yeah, he sort of uses them, and they run through the various essays, but it was quite interesting. He did touch on it in his talk as well, about the fact that Australia does tend to sweep under the rug all of the massacres and the nasty things that we have done to the First Peoples of this country. And it was really interesting to go from reading these and then to hear him discussing those, because it is really quite terrible, but I don't know a lot about Australian history, let alone Indigenous Australian history. And part of that is my fault, because I've never really been all that interested in it. I've always sort of been more interested in, I guess, a little bit American history, but European history, English and Irish history and that sort of thing, and that's what we were taught in high school as well. So I'm going to try and sort of hunt down some more history about my own country, which I'm going to find interesting, I think. And that, I think, no, one more. I also had an ebook which I got from NetGalley. So for an honest review, obviously, which was Hot Rebel by Lynn Ray Harris. And this is part of her hostile operations team, which is the hot team. I know. And this was a lot of fun because the other ones that I've read so far have been novellas, and the last one that I read, they're all sort of romantic suspense, but the last one I read, all the suspense was off book. It was in the background and you didn't sort of know anything about it, whereas this one was sort of right in the thick of things, and I did enjoy that. I thought that it's set in, I'm assuming it's a made up country, but it's kind of like Afghanistan or somewhere like that. But there was plenty of suspense. This tells the story of Victoria, and she was sort of on the path to becoming like a super good sniper person. I don't know what they call them. Beyond snipers. It could just be sniper. And basically something happens in her family, and because she is really loyal, family's important to her, she sort of basically starts working for somebody who's, I guess, outside of the law, so she becomes a little bit of a fugitive, and I guess not really against America, because she's still rah America, but yeah, she's working for this other person. Don't mind that little tangent, but Nick is somebody she used to go to sniper school with, and sniper school, it just sounds so fun. I don't think it would be fun in real life though. But yes, so it's about them coming back together again. Take from that what you will. But I did very much enjoy this this installment, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I haven't actually read all of the previous ones in this series, but what I'll also do is I've popped a link I'll pop a link in the comment box below, and if you like to, you can check out my full review of that on my blog as well. So that was it for what I read for the month of November. I also started After Such Kindness by Gaynor Arnold, which I thought was amazing. I also continued to read and finally finished the other day Ape House by Sarah Gruen. So those two I will just leave as reviews for the December wrap up. Thank you for watching my long and rambling crazed video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of them below, what you thought of them. Until next time, happy reading. Bye.